What is up, everyone? Sergeant Arya right here, and today we're going to be reacting to the Battle of Greece, the first episode of the series. I reacted to Napoleon's marshals yesterday, but the audio decided not to work, which is nice. So I had to scrap that recording, and I don't want to react to the exact same thing, like right after I just reacted to it. So, yeah, I'm reacting to this instead. I'll definitely post a video about Napoleon's marshals, maybe today or tomorrow. So yeah. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started. Kings and generals.
The epic battles of the Eastern and Western fronts, as well as the war in the Pacific, are often central to the depictions of World War II, but the conflict was truly global, and each of its smaller parts were crucial and decisive. The invasion of Greece by Italy and then Germany is among such lesser talked about parts of the war. Welcome to our series on the Battle of Greece and this first video on the Greco-Italian War. If you're interested in the history of this era, don't forget to check out our second channel, The Cold War. The link is in the top right corner.
Oh goodness, freaking Italy trying to invade Greece. Just like the Soviet Union trying to invade Finland.
Shout out to Call of War for sponsoring this video. Call of War is a free online PvP strategy game played by militia country too, with other players or mobile expansion of their empire. The recently unified Kingdom of Italy was striving to form a powerful colonial empire, with Italian Somaliland and Eritrea among the first colonies to be established overseas. During the Italo-Ottoman War of 1911, Italy occupied the largely Greek Dodecanese islands and annexed the province of Libya in northern Africa. For their participation in World War I, they were promised the provinces of Trento, South Tyrol and Dalmatia, the Austrian Littoral, part of Western Carniola, and the German colonies in Africa. At the end of the war, they didn't receive all of the land that was promised, causing the Italian government to be humiliated. This mutilated victory, as it was called by Italian nationalists, led to the rise of fascism in the kingdom, with their leader, Benito Mussolini, becoming prime minister in 1922. Mussolini desired to forge a new Roman Empire in Africa and the Balkans, and wanted to achieve supremacy over the Mediterranean, where their sphere of influence was based. At the same time, a defeat against burgeoning Turkey in 1920.
What the heck?
At the same time, a defeat against burgeoning Turkey in 1922 had thrown Greece into a chaotic state, in which the monarchy was overthrown, and several revolutions and counter-revolutions.
Oh yeah, at this point, Greece was sort of semi-fascist. That's kind of interesting.
Ensued. In 1935, the Royalists, with the help of the British, restored King George II to the Greek throne, but the country was still in a period of crisis. The king, instead of attempting to solve the crisis through parliamentary means, called on Ioannis Metaxas, a former army general with pro-fascist ideas, to form a new cabinet. On August 4, 1936, the new Metaxas regime abolished the constitution and the political parties and set up a dictatorship. Metaxas, now the prime minister in this fascist government, sought to establish order back to his country, although this didn't bend the democratic spirit of the Greek people. As the outbreak of war was looming over Europe, Metaxas followed a policy of neutrality and close relationships with the other Mediterranean powers. Italian-Greek relations had never been particularly good, but relations worsened after the Italian invasion of Albania, which gave them a foothold in the Balkans. The presence of Mussolini's troops at the Greco-Albanian border threw the Greeks into the arms of the British, to whom they were also economically dependent. This resulted in the acceptance of a British guarantee of independence on April 13th. The start of World War II, however, reversed Italian plans for a Greek invasion, as in 1940 they were fighting the British in northern Africa as well as in the Mediterranean, and couldn't open another front. But Count Galeazzo Ciano, foreign minister and Mussolini's son-in-law, had other plans. He exercised much control over Albanian governor Francesco Jomini and military commander Sebastiano Visconti Presca, and saw Albania as his own personal domain. Ciano believed that he could increase his popularity in Albania by adding territories with Albanian minorities in Greece and Yugoslavia, coinciding with Mussolini's expansionist desires. Mussolini was finally convinced by the assassination of the Albanian.
Kind of interesting considering the fact that a lot of your southern land is ethnically
Albanian leader in northern Greece, Daud Hoxha, and an invasion was planned for the end of September. Visconti Presca started moving Italian units to the Greek frontier, while Albanian guerrillas were armed and trained to disrupt the Greek rear. But the Germans delayed the start of the operation because they wanted to maintain the status quo in the Balkans. In response, the Italians tried to force Greece into a reaction that would give them a convenient pretext to invade. Provocations reached their peak in August when the submarine Delfino torpedoed and sank the HRM destroyer Eli. The Greek authorities feigned ignorance on the identity of the attackers, but prepared for war. When on the 12th of October 1940, German troops entered Romania, Mussolini decided to act immediately, proclaiming October 26th as the day of the invasion. Although Il Duce was furious because Romania was in the Italian sphere of influence, the German interest in the Balkans prevented Turkey from coming to Greece's aid, and this allowed the dictator to declare war on them. On October 22nd, Ciano drew up an ultimatum to be presented to Metaxas, intended to leave Greece no way out, either occupation or war. Metaxas answered with his famous ochi, or no. 6 days later, some 140,000 men, under torrential rain, invaded Greece along a 90-mile front.
Yeah, like imagine how close together they are, especially like in the mountains.
They believed the invasion would be fast and would face around 36,000 Greeks, enjoying a 3-to-1 advantage against the defenders. To the surprise of the Italians, the political divisions in Greece were temporarily silenced in a mood of national unity as the Greeks swiftly mobilized reservists to the front lines. At that point, the Greek army fielded one fully mobilized infantry division in Epirus, the 8th Division, commanded by General Karalampos Katsimitros, while the 9th Division was placed at the Yugoslav border. They had no tanks and were low on machine guns and artillery. Supported by other formations, these divisions would have to hold the Italian advance until reinforcements arrived. Only the forces on the border with Bulgaria were not moved, as the Greeks feared the Bulgarians would invade and assist the Italians in their offensive. The British, honoring their guarantee, reinforced Crete, as it was.
Honestly, I think that that would be a bad idea for the Greeks to do that. Like, let's look at this, guys. Bulgaria, they joined Germany. So the Greeks are obviously going to be outnumbered if they invade from here. So I think it would have been a lot smarter to just abandon that whole, like, slither of land and defend right on this tiny line.
The British, honoring their guarantee, reinforced Crete.
Well, unless, I don't even know if Bulgaria... Oh no! My computer's gonna die. I don't even know if Bulgaria joined Germany yet. I'm pretty sure they did. Because I know it happened, like, soon after Romania joined the Axis. Here we go.
As it was very important for them strategically, and sent aircraft, supplies, and money to help the Greek cause. Pressed by the Italians in Africa, they weren't able to send land forces. The frontier was divided by the invaders into 3 sectors. The Epirus front, under General Carlo Rossi, ran from the sea to Ioannina and saw the 25th Ciamoria Army Corps, composed of the 23rd Ferrara Division of Mountain Infantry, the 51st Siena Division, the Centauro Armored Division, the 6th, 7th and 19th Regiments of Cavalry, and the 3rd Regiment of Grenadiers, backed by heavy artillery and blackshirt militias. The Pindus front in the center had General Mario Girotti's 3rd Giulia Division of Elite Alpini mountain troops, backed by a mountain gun battalion and mountain artillery. The eastern sector ran to the Yugoslavian frontier and encompassed the area bordered by Korça, the Italian center in Albania, and Florina, the gateway to Lake Prespa in Greece. Here, in less mountainous terrain, was the 26th Karitsa Army Corps under General Gabriele Nesci, comprised of the 19th Venezia, 29th Piedmonte, and 49th Parma divisions, 3 battalions of Albanian troops, the 101st Machine Gun Battalion, heavy artillery, and a regiment of tanks. The initial Italian advance of Visconti Prasca was in such strength that it...
Well, it said, oh, the Italians said that the Greeks only had 36,000. But it never said how many the Greeks actually had, which is kind of disappointing.
Sent the Greek forces on the frontier reeling back. There, the Greeks had organized the 17-mile Alea-Kalpaki-Kalames line in defense of Ioannina, the capital of Epirus. The center of the line was heavily defended, and the left was held with light forces. As the Pindus Mountains gave them shelter, on the right was only a small Zoni's detachment, Greece's famous kilted mountain troops, under General Konstantinos Davakis. At the coast, there was a small 2-battalion detachment led by Major Nikolaos Lumba. The Greek commander-in-chief, Alexandros Papagos, a hero of the Balkan Wars, was placed in command of the defense of the country, and he gave General Katsimitros complete freedom of action, with the mission to
I wonder if there was ever Albanian rebels against
hold off
Italy. Because, I don't think they're ever really talked about.
the Italian advance until sufficient forces had been raised for a counter-offensive. Katsimitros had a difficult decision: to hold on to the Alea-Kalamis line or to retreat towards the second line of defense at the gate of southern Greece, from Preveza through the river Aliakmonas almost to Salonika. In the end, the Greek general decided to protect Ioannina and Epirus and to take advantage of the easily defendable mountainous terrain there. Visconti Prasca, on the other hand, planned to have Rossi's infantry attack the center of the defensive line, while the Centauro Armored Division advanced through the narrow valley of the Calamus River, attempting an encircling maneuver against their left wing. This attack would be helped by 2 similar maneuvers aiming to encircle Greek forces on the defensive line, one in the Pindus Mountains towards Metsovo, and the other towards Paramithia south of the Calamus River. Visconti Prasca decided not to make any advance into western Macedonia before the Epirus area could be secured. Despite the bad weather, it was planned that in a few weeks Epirus would be, in Mussolini's words, liquidated. On the first day of the offensive, Rossi sent the Siena division with some Albanian contingents to advance south along the coast towards Paramithia under the command of General Francisco Rivolta, while the Ferrara and Centauro divisions advanced into the Alea-Kalamis sector as far as Kalpaki. They advanced 30 miles after 2 days, although the armored division was hindered by the mountainous mud and was rendered useless for fighting in these conditions. None of these units at first encountered any resistance, as Papagos approved an initial strategic withdrawal behind the Calamus River. On November 2nd, the weather improved, and the Italians decided to attack the main defensive line. The Battle of Alea-Kalamis started with the Ferrara division assaulting the bulk of Katsimitros' line several times.
What about the defensive line? No.
The harshness of the terrain and the
They're pushing them back! They're pushing them back! Oh my gosh.
high morale and fortifications repelled attack after attack despite the Italians' air support.
Okay, nice.
On November 5th,
How many losses the Italians are taking so far?
Rivolta enjoyed much more success with the crossing of the Calamus River, slowly advancing southwards and capturing the port of Igoumenitsa the following day. In response,
These maps are so cool. Just look how detailed they are.
the Lumba detachment had to retreat further south to protect the gateway to southern Greece. The deepest Italian advance came 1 day later, when the coastal forces occupied the village of Margheriti. By November 8th, however, the Italian offensive in Epirus had stopped. At the Pindus Mountains, another struggle was occurring at the same time.
Oh no.
The Julia division decisively defeated Davakis' small detachment
They're in the mountains! They're in the mountains, though.
by October 29th, and 4 days later got within 12 miles of the vital Metsovo Pass, capturing the city of Konitsa and the villages of Samarina and Favosa. But the Alpini were slowed down by the foul weather conditions and were forced to stop, calling for reinforcements that never came. Papagos realized the precarious situation on this front and sent reinforcements, including the 1st Division. On November 4th, General Vasileios Fraknos commanded this counteroffensive into the Battle of Pindus. He first occupied Mount Tamburi north of Samarina, then sent his cavalry in an encircling maneuver behind the town. Surrounded, the Julia sustained heavy casualties, but eventually managed to break out of the encirclement and started to retreat, calling for reinforcements. Later that day, Fraknos had managed to reoccupy Samarina and Favosa, pressing his attack on the depleted Julia and completely defeating the
Oh, how does that even happen? Oh my god.
Alpini Division. The 47th Bari Division, which was earmarked to participate in an invasion of Corfu that had to be dropped because of the failure at Epirus, hurried to the Pindus front, but it was already too late. As the Italians retreated, the Greeks had problems of their own. The supplies for the Greek army in Pindus were poor or non-existent, and there weren't even roads by which the army could be supplied. Due to this situation, the civilian population heroically volunteered to climb the mountains loaded with ammunition and supplies for the Greek forces, fighting side by side with the army. The supply situation for the Italians was also abysmal, as the limited capacity of the two main ports, Valona and Cherezzo, created a bottleneck for supplies and reinforcements. By November 8th, the retreating Italian forces started a line of defense at Konitsa. In the following 5 days, the Greeks launched a steady offensive.
The Greeks are winning, they're pushing them back, holy heck.
And managed to advance into the Albanian-Greek frontier line. A new Greek attack against Konitsa started on November 13th. The Italians made a stubborn defense, but 3 days later they evacuated the city after burning it to the ground. Furthermore, Visconti Prasca blamed the defeat on the poor quality of the Albanian soldiers, based on the fact that an Albanian regiment had been decimated in Epirus. This enraged the Albanian commander Prenk Pavizi, who protested that the Albanian soldiers were not to be used as cannon fodder. Mussolini was dissatisfied and decided to replace Prasca with General Ubaldo Sodu as the supreme commander in Albania. This man started organizing a new defensive line on the entire front, and then commanded Revolta to stop the coastal advance and wait for the coming of new reinforcements from Italy. The Greeks had won a great victory on the Epirus and Pindus fronts, sending the Italians back to their initial positions at the Albanian frontier. Facing more than 5,000 casualties, the Italians' morale was severely weakened. With flocks of reinforcements coming from all over Greece, Papagos started planning a major offensive operation to take the key city of Korcha. He appointed General Ioannis Pitsikas to lead it, and divided his forces into 3 army corps. The 1st Corps on the coast of Epirus, the 2nd Corps in the Pindus sector, and the 3rd Corps in Western Macedonia, with the 9th, 10th and 15th Infantry Divisions, backed with artillery in adequate numbers, and with the 11th and 13th being transported to reinforce the corps. Furthermore, Papagos placed the 3rd, 4th and 5th Infantry Divisions in reserve. Sodu, on the other hand, reinforced his line of defense and reorganized his forces into 2 field armies, the 11th Army at the Epirus front with the forces of the former 25th Corps and the remnants of the Julia's Alpini troops, and General Mario Vercellino's 9th Army in the Korcha sector, formed out of the former 26th Corps, with a reserve composed of the 2nd Tredentina Alpine Division, 50 tanks from the Centauro Division, and the 53rd Arezzo Division. The Bari Division was placed at the strategic border post of Aseka between the northern and southern defensive lines. The balance of power had drastically changed, as the Greeks were now twice the number of the Italian forces. Sodu planned to gain time with his defensive disposition until the arrival of new reinforcements from Italy, with which he could launch a second defensive operation. The arrival of all reinforcements was arranged to be completed by December, but the Greek offensive caught them by surprise before that. Mount Moravus, with the northern Mount Ivan, belongs to the Great Pindus Mountain.
Look at this right now.
Mountain range and forms a barrier covering the city and the plateau of Korcha. There were only two ways to the Albanian center. One went north through the valley located between Moravas and Ivan, and the other ran northwest through the valley of Darda. Both of these two valleys could be accessed from the Greek city of Florina, but the whole area had been fortified by the Ninth Army with semi-permanent fortifications. For this reason, Pittacus divided the Korcha front into two. In the north, the 15th, 9th, and the recently arrived 13th divisions under General Gorgios Solakoglu's 3rd Corps, and in the south, the
What kind of name is that? Oh my gosh. Dang, that's a long name.
K Corps, commanded by General Gorgios Kosmas, with the 10th Division and the 11th in reserve. The plan was for the 15th Division to advance west towards the Sangong Pass between Moravas and Ivan and capture its western exit, while the 9th would attack the center of the Italian defensive line towards Mount Moravas, and the K Corps would penetrate the Italian left and flank the enemy positions atop of Moravas. On November 14th, the Greek forces attacked on the whole front from Lake Prespa to Mount Gramos, directed against the Moravas-Ivan area. The main attack was organized against the mountainous southern part of the area, where the Italians couldn't use their armored forces. Also, the Italians weren't expecting a Greek offensive so suddenly, and thus they were taken by surprise. By afternoon, the 10th Division took possession of the Bataros Heights in Moravas and the villages of Nikolica and Vozigrad, while the 9th advanced towards the western bank of the Devilis River. The 15th Division, after a 3.5-hour struggle, was able to break the Italian defensive line and take the Sangong Pass, thus isolating Mount Ivan. 15 miles from Nikolica, K Corps occupied the Stavroides Heights on November 15th and fortified their position south of the valley of Dadha. At this point, the Albanians under Pavisi had abandoned the front, infuriated by Italian abuse, but Virgilino sent the Arezzo Division to reinforce the line of defense. In response, Papagos reinforced the offensive with the 11th and 13th Divisions. On November 17th, the 9th and 13th Divisions moved to occupy the valley of Dadha, and the 15th tried to take possession of Mount Ivan. One day later, the Greeks faced a critical moment when the 13th Division had to change the direction of their attack under heavy rain, and this resulted in a state of disorder and confusion that almost sent the division into retreat, compromising both the 9th and 10th's rears. But thanks to the actions of Major Sotirios Moutosis, order was re-established, and the division continued its advance. In reward, Moutosis was granted command of the division. After 2 days of heavy fighting, the Greeks seized the supply lines of the enemy and gradually advanced along the high ridge of Mount Moravas under artillery fire. Having seized the valley of the Dadha and the valley between Moravas and Ivan by November 20th, Solakoglu launched his offensive action over Korcha, while Kosmas was sent to take the key border post at Oseka, where the 9th Army's defensive line ended. Despite air support, the advantage of a terrain favorable for defense and permanent fortifications, Sodu was not able to stabilize a defensive line on the Korcha plateau. Virgilino's forces would have to retreat from the city of Pogradets because they felt threatened by a Greek pincer movement against Korcha. After a hard-fought fight in which the Bari was forced to retreat, the K Corps took Ursika on November 21st. One day later, the 15th Division occupied Mount Ivan, and the 9th entered Korcha without resistance, being cheered by the Greek native population. The Greek forces continued to press Sodu's retreating forces one day later. The Italians made a disorderly retreat towards Ochrida and Elbasan, as well as Klissura and Pogradets. There they would mount their new defensive line. The fall of Corcia was a devastating blow to the Italian invasion. They had been beaten back by the Greeks and were now forced to defend in Albania. The city of Corcia was the center of the Italian campaign in the north and a key supply point for the invaders, and thus losing it heavily demoralized the Italian army. On the contrary, the Greeks' high morale and national fervor inspired them to advance further and to launch a new offensive, directed to take the important port of Saranda and the mountain passes from the northwest to the northeast of Agira Castro. The sponsor of this video, Call of War,
Thank you, but no.
the beginning
Oh no, it's done!
of the Battle of Greece, and we will talk more about it.
Oh, it's done. Oh, that's sad. Well, thank you all for watching, everyone. That was a very... Oh, that was very interesting. And I love these maps, by the way. That's why I like Kings and Generals. But, yeah. Thank you so much for watching. And stay tuned for part 2. Goodbye. Hello, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel. And, you know, turn on the notification bell thingy. And if you didn't, then make sure to leave a thumbs down. But yeah, that would be greatly appreciated. And while you're at it, go ahead and watch my other videos. They're probably just as good, and if not better than this one right now. Except for my oldest videos, don't watch those. And, you know, subscribe to these people down here, my fellow sergeants. They're other YouTubers that I either know or I have in high regards. Yeah, even my cat agrees. So, thank you for watching, and have a great day.